I had set out to learn about Islam in America, but I found I could not do so without understanding American identity.
Join us. This is our Grand Marshal. This is Ambassador Ahmed.
Congratulations. So, Grand Marshal, how many nationalities represented? All Americans, but how many nationalities?
Several nationalities. As you can see, there's Caucasian, African American, Bosnian, Sudanese, Somalian, you have Pakistan, Asians, from all walks. All walks of life, and that's what Islam is about, is the coming together of the community itself.
Is there, Grand Marshal, some opposition? Because I was told that some people on both sides are not happy about this.
Yes, you will see a group of people on the other side from the non-Muslim group who oppose the parade. On the other side, there are a group of Muslims who see this parade as too American and too Western.
Freedom! Defend freedom! No Sharia in America! If you love America, as you say, then preserve our Constitution!
People had different ideas of what it means to be American.
Sharia never freed anyone! Do you see anyone?
We kill more people than anyone else. You are nothing human. You are against humanity. You're a child killer.
Mohammed was a child killer.
There is no such thing as the lesser of two evils when it comes to Obama and McCain. Muslims should not vote at all for these tawagheed.
Or, who can be an American? How can people accept each other, reflect the pluralist vision of the founding fathers? Can the early American identity coming from Plymouth accept those who are not like them?
And one day, all Islam will be scoured off of the earth. The Kaaba stone will be turned into powder by the Almighty God Israel.
The experience of Muslims in America today challenges fundamental American features: justice, civil rights, religious freedom. This challenge will define America in the future. American University, where I teach, backed my 9-month fieldwork study. The first task was to assemble my trusty team.
Welcome back. We've been talking about the unique journey into the Muslim world and a follow-up journey through America.
This project is really unprecedented. What we've done is travel across the whole of America.
Jonathan Hayden from Alabama and my chief of staff for 5 years.
We actually travel as a family ourselves. Professor Ahmed is like a father to us.
Frankie Martin, who we call Professor Martin, was my former honors student.
Ambassador Ahmed actually calls us the best ambassadors for the United States.
And from Dallas, Texas, Haley Wolt, also a former honors student. These three accompanied me to the Muslim world for my project, Journey into Islam.
Some of the best Americans are Muslims.
Craig Considine, another student of mine, was given the task of being film director. I had worked previously with major television productions. This time, I decided to film informally and casually. That way, we would not attract attention and distract people, especially in mosques and homes. Madhya Hamid, a Muslim student, joined us for 3 months. We set out to travel the length and breadth of the vast continent that is the United States. We went to over 75 cities and over 100 mosques. We met every kind of Muslim. I hope to have a book and film called Journey into America at Travel's End. For me, it was a journey of discovery. It was also my tribute to the land which had welcomed me and my family so warmly. It was a journey of discovery for my young team too, of their own country, of themselves. As we traveled, I was again struck by the beauty and grandeur of America. and the hospitality and generosity of its people. In St. Louis, Rabbi Talvi gave us blessings for the journey.
To launch this journey is a huge responsibility, but a great honor, and each of us is a part of that. The journey is being launched here in St. Louis, that we, with our archway, represent the opening of the tent that we pray will be opened across this land.
Our next stop was Dearborn. Dearborn is home to one of the largest Muslim communities in the US. About 1/3 of the 7 million Muslims of America are from Arab lands, 1/3 from South Asia, and about 1/3 are African American. We visited Imam Qazwini of Iraq, a leading American Imam and a prominent figure in the Shia community.
You see, Doctor, the calligraphy was made by...
Beautiful. I love the calligraphy. This is from the Quran Sharif?
Yes, this is Surah Al-Insan.
I would love to hear, and I would like my team to hear, are the verses about ilm and knowledge and scholars, because scholars are very often treated pretty badly in the Muslim world.
Yes. Now, there are a few verses that we selected from the Quran that promotes seeking knowledge in Islam. There is no religion in the world that I know that promotes seeking knowledge as much as Islam does. There is a famous hadith from the Prophet in which he says that طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم ومسلمة. Seeking knowledge is an obligation upon each Muslim, male and female Muslim. The one who did this calligraphy is not Muslim.
Really?
He's a Christian.
And from the Middle East or
from the Middle
America?
East. He was approached by a friend in Lebanon. He told him that we have a mosque in the US and we would like you to come there and do this for us. How much you charge? He says nothing.
So the Christian did this free?
He did it for free.
So this is where my dad worked.
Naja Bazi is a third-generation Dearborn resident.
South end of Dearborn is a place of tremendous pride. Maybe because of the immigration stories that are here and the hard work and, really building America right in front of you. So my grandfather first came over in 1905. Okay, see how there's all the trees? Because they're recreating Lebanon. You can tell the flowers, they'll grow any kind of tree that they can grow here, any kind of fruit. This is very famous. This is called Dick's Avenue. And for example, this store here, Ronnie Berry, this is 3 generations who just passed the trade down of halal meat from father to son and now from the son to the grandson. Ronnie is a baseball team, so we call them the now 50 and over crew. They've been together for a long time, and these guys live in all different directions. But the South End that I was telling you about, the South Enders still come together, and they still play ball.
I got them all back together because we grew up together.
Yeah.
And thank God, it's been great. All that's been great.
It's wonderful.
And at all our games, they have to have an ambulance.
I was 3, 4, 5 years old, very, very young. And I remember coming to this particular mosque. My mom and my grandmother were very prominent women in the community. I have huge issues with this kind of stuff all around the Muslim world. Islam created women to be in the forefront, and the cultures of Muslims put them in back doors and relegate them to small rooms. What's that about? I don't think the Prophet would be very happy about that at all.
The Muslim community is not a monolith. Farhan, former president of the local MSA, was attacked by Muslims for promoting interfaith dialogue.
One day in September of 2004, I was leaving my apartment, getting back from a meeting which brought all the Muslim chapters together and all the students together. And I was getting in my car, and suddenly I was attacked by 3 people. And these individuals kicked me and beat me on the ground. I was heavily injured, cracked my ribs, and then tried to run me over. And as they were beating me and hitting me, for some reason, it was hard for me to retaliate at that moment because I was looking at them. And I knew these individuals, people that I've worked with. And in that shock, I was just not able to respond because I was so surprised that fellow Muslims would respond in such a way. Fortunately, I survived the incident. As I moved out of the way from the car, and I called the cops, and people were around, witnesses were around, and I was picked up, taken to the hospital.
Across the city, in the poorest areas of Detroit, was the African American Muslim community. African Americans say we are reverting to Islam because some 30 to 40% of Africans captured and brought as slaves were Muslim.
And this is just showing you some of the symbols that Islam has been around in America long before any of what we write in our general history books. For instance, we see California, the word California, the great state of California, from Khalif, California, and Khalif in Arabic. And as Muslims, we say the leader of the Ummah, of the nation, is the Khalif. We also look at the Gulf Coast. When we look at the Gulf Coast, we see Tallahassee, Florida, Tallahassee, Florida.
We have some guests tonight. Dr. Akbar Ahmed is doing some research on the Muslims in America.
On September 9, 2008, Imam W.D. Muhammad passed away. We prayed for the soul of one of America's greatest religious leaders in one of his historic mosques.
Let's stop for a moment and take a moment to remember our Imam W.D. Muhammad, who I think is the greatest Imam that ever lived. And he made his transition today, passed, and let us make dua for him that Allah accepts him into the Jannah.
Imam W.D. Muhammad moved away from the message of his father, Elijah Muhammad, head of the Nation of Islam. Imam W.D. championed the vision of universalist Islam, compassion and acceptance.
Have you found some peace in Islam?
A level playing ground. I mean, I can understand balance. I can understand good and bad. I can understand the concept of black and white. It's not an issue for me. I mean, because before I couldn't understand it.
At one stroke, Imam W.D. transcended the issue of race among the African Americans.
This is such an important issue, race in America. So how do you explain this to me who's an outsider?
Allah tested people with races.
With races?
Races, languages, differences.
And the Quran tells you we made many cultures and races, but you're all one.
So it's just a test. And it's hard for somebody to be different from someone else and to be able to accept them as their brother or sister.
The rift between the Nation of Islam and WD's movement was healed at his memorial service. There, the team talked to his grandsons.
When I got older, like a teenager, he would teach me different things about the religion and how I should pray and be kind to people. And like when I was young, I used to kill bugs because I didn't like them. But he used to tell me that everything was like equal, and what is my life more important than a bug's life? So I should care for the bug and let it outside so it can be where it belongs.
It's my grandfather. I loved him.
From both a personal level and also on like a broader, like a religious level.
He was a teacher. To me, he was my hero. My great-grandfather passed, Elijah Muhammad. He built the bridge for mainstream Islam.
So I would say to the American people, look at the scripture of Islam. Look at what Allah says. Allah doesn't say anything about Jews or monkeys in there. He doesn't say that. So we have to read the scripture. Allah doesn't say kill the Christians in there. It says if they come at you, kill them. And I don't see anything wrong with self-defense. But they will quote that part about kill the Christians. And then, but right after that it says, but if they desist, leave them alone because Allah is forgiving and Allah is peaceful.
And
they
Allah
don't put that part
Allah
in.
prefers peace.
Yeah, and Allah prefers peace. They don't put that part in, you see.
Our next stop was Chicago, and it was beautiful in the early fall.
Tickets? Anybody tickets?
Here, Haley and her dad said I needed to see the real America.
My first baseball game. Red Sox.
It's the Cubs.
The Cubs, sorry.
The Cubs.
What's the difference between cricket and baseball? To be honest, we only play it one day. First of all, that's a big thing.
Next morning, the team visited the Muslim Community Center School on the outskirts of the city.
We are here at the Muslim school. The school goes from elementary to 8th grade.
Assalamu alaikum. Oh, can I get a Assalamu alaikum? All right. I have some friends over. And yes, and guess where they are going through the whole United States. In one whole year, they're going to visit more than 40 different Muslim communities and just want to know about Muslims. Are you guys Muslims?
I want my table to go and have a seat, okay? So on my table I have Fez, I have Henna, I have...
Other subjects like science, math, history, whatever else, is that basically like it would be in a school, another school?
Just like another school.
Give me the answer to this part. 3 times -7. Can I have the answer to that? Amara? -21. Good job.
So you get a lot of support from the other religious.
Oh yes, yeah. So they've been great. Even what we've had is like after 9/11, kind of like a bomb threat, and they had caught the guy. We've had every year we had like a few windows shattered. But one of the first times when it happened, one of the other churches had paid for one of the windows. Like the congregation on Sunday collected money to say, well, to pay for one of the panels that was broken. So.
But this does happen every now and then.
Yeah, even this year, if we go to our new expansion, we have a window shattered. So
that was very recent.
Just recent, about 3 months ago.
We pray. This is where we pray. This is our new masjid.
I am a genius.
We are in prayer.
Every day. Every day. 5 times a day. On TV.
Lane Tech.
Who are you?
I'm Boha. He made a robot. Yeah. He made a robot.
This is our prayer room.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله
Muhammad Ali Jinnah Way. This is a street named after the founder of Pakistan, a great hero of mine, a hero of all Pakistanis. And we were talking to the man, Bernie Stone, the alderman, the vice mayor of Chicago, who actually gave us this street.
We've established something like 5 different mosques here in the ward. I've been fortunate enough to been the recipient of great support as far as my electorate is concerned. In fact, I probably have better support among the Muslims than I do among the Jews.
Alderman Stone, you have taken the finest words of the Jewish tradition tikkun olam, to heal a fractured world, and you have healed a fractured world.
Thank you.
So
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. My message is very simple. My message is each of us should treat each other as you would treat your own brother.
This is like Lahore or Karachi. You wander down the wall, you bump into old friends. We come to Devon for kebabs and tikkas, and there he is wandering around.
Khan Barbecue was offering free food to break the fast during Ramadan, the month of fasting.
How are you?
Hi, Cameron. Good to see you.
The real man of Chicago.
The living legend.
The king of Chicago.
The greatest.
Hi, my name is Munir Chowdhury. I came to this country in 1971 and moved over here with only $100 in my pocket, basically. You see the pictures, me and my wife with Hillary Clinton, we did a big fundraising for this year when she was running for president. And next to that is Obama, when he was yet to be known, he was running for a Senate seat in 2004. We had a big function and big fundraising for him in the backyard. So this is the name of Allah, and there's the Khana Kaaba where we go for Hajj, Muhammad, his prophet. And these are all the significance of being a Muslim, practicing Muslim in America.
So the American dream, it's real.
It's real.
So people can accomplish the American dream.
I'm sure, I'm very positive. The biggest accomplishment I feel in my own mind is that I was able to help my family members as well as the people over here, the Americans. I provide the employment for the people and I feel good about it.
Of breast cancer. I do want to mention today that we had a huge celebration at Fellowship Baptist Church this past Wednesday night, where the pastor is now the Reverend James. Brother Muhammad is going to give $1,000. He also wants to give away, Johnny wants to give away 10 jobs. And 10 jobs. He has a factory. Tell us what kind of jobs are there, what you want people to do.
These are factory workers as well as in the mechanical department, shipping and receiving. Anybody with the right qualifications could move up to the supervisory positions.
We're not a one ethnic group country like Britain for the British, and France for France, French and German for the Germans. America has no ethnic identity in that sense. It used to be white. It was always white, black, and Native American. But now the American identity is a multi-ethnic, multi-character identity.
And which of the founding fathers, the great founding fathers of the United States, inspires you the most?
Dr. King. Well, today, there's a generation that's building the bridges because the wall has been torn down. So Dr. King became the figure of our time, and I was blessed to work directly with him.
We then traveled to the heart of the heartland of America, Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
So we are here at the oldest mosque in the United States. This is reputed to be the oldest mosque in the United States with the Imam.
This was built, according to what I heard from the community here, 1934.
This is the wudu area, so this is where people came and made their wudu, You have the traditional, like the open faucets that you guys probably see in like old mosques.
And when did they come here, the Syrian Lebanese
I hear it's the 1880s.
1880s?
You're right. And that's why one reason it makes sense that this is one of the oldest mosques.
But I was told the Imam said it was created in the 1930s.
1930s was the establishment of the community. People started to come in the 1880s, meaning, by the time they get organized and a couple of generations and they have children and they want to take their children to a mosque or a school, then it took that long to establish a mosque. So they were poor, didn't have money to buy a mosque or build a mosque, but that was when they could afford it.
The Imam had asked me to give the khutbah, the Friday sermon.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Quran Sharif teaches us to reach out to people who are not of our faith, to explain Islam to them, explain the roots of Islam in ilm, in knowledge, in compassion. The Holy Prophet ﷺ asked us and reminded us that the ink of the scholar is more sacred than the blood of the martyr. Some of the Muslims in Cedar Rapids had been in the United States for generations. More recent immigrants were finding it difficult to adjust, like the Somali refugees living in Grand Island, Nebraska.
Have you met a Muslim before? Have you
No.
ever met? No. Okay.
No.
What's your perception of Muslims? What would you say if you had to think, oh, Muslim? What would you?
They look like they're nice people. I mean, I really haven't talked to one. Right now, we're having a lot of problems at Swift's.
Oh, at
we're
the
having
plants.
we're having a lot of problems right now because they want prayer time, and people are kind of up. Some people are for it, a lot of people aren't for it.
Some meat packing issues that have recently arisen here. Some workers were fired for refusing or for wanting to pray during Ramadan. So there's a lot of Somalis working here in the meat packing. So we're going to try and talk to some of them. Can someone explain what happened?
A couple of ladies went off to make the salat. And one of the managers or supervisors eventually come by and dragged the prayer rags out of whatever they were praying with out of their way, and apparently handled them or touched them.
He took them.
Took the prayer rags or whatever they were praying out, and had a physical contact with the girls, which in our tradition is a no thing. It upsets any man who has some sort of dignity. That's the way naturally a man would react. So at the break time, when everybody found out the story, that was the beginning of that offset the whole experience. He said, whether you are at work or not at work, as a Muslim, you have to meet your prayers, and that is a fact of our life. I mean, at the beginning of the holy month of Ramadan, the iftar time, the time you bring it fast, was still in good time. So there was never a conflict in terms of their breaks. Then at the middle of the month, the iftar time came a bit earlier than the beginning of the month. So what they asked the company was to give their break time a bit earlier than normally would be, so they can eat their iftar and make their prayers at the same time.
The Somalis arranged a new prayer time with management, but this didn't go over well with the other workers.
Since they get a deal from the company to allow them to do their prayers, the Hispanic community walked away from the work site in protest to the deal. So the company backed off from the deal they made with the Somali community and decided to go with their interests, so to speak, and they decided to be part of the bigger community.
As a result, they had to choose between working at the plant or preserving their Islam. So they lost their jobs, but maintained their honor.
You can also break for prayers.
Lady said today in the paper that we are here in America and that we work our 8 hours and we don't have time to pray. You know, we have to work our Saturdays and Sundays, and that they should kind of go our, you know, the way, I'm not saying I'm not prejudiced or anything, but that, you know, they should kind of go with the American way.
The fate of entire communities rests on the definition of American identity. Yet most people take it for granted. we asked the leading thinkers of America. Noam Chomsky, arguably the most important intellectual alive, according to the New York Times.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you.
How would you define American identity?
It's a very striking question, in fact, because this is, of course, a country of immigrants. And the immigrants were originally mostly English, but then German, Scotch-Irish, Swedes, Southeastern Europeans, Eastern Europeans like my parents. It is a melting pot.
In San Francisco, we talked to Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, a convert and a star in the American Muslim community.
The holiest of holies in Islam in Makkah Sharif.
This hung on the door.
And could you...
It says Allahu Rabbul Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim.
And translation for?
God is the Lord of the worlds, the merciful, the compassionate. These are all Arabic, like tafsir. This is mostly tafsir and fiqh. This is all fiqh. And then that's all theology. Hadith, that's all hadith. And then that's all American history. Yeah.
I like that combination of American history and hadith together.
I think a lot about books side by side. Like if you go to the bookstore, all the atheist books are right next to all the religious books. It's kind of interesting how they don't have a problem.
Hoping they have some dialogue between the two.
Like the books don't seem to have a problem.
The problem of creating an identity was a problem, a crucial issue from the very beginning of the settlement. And a lot of mythology was created, as is typical for nations. Nations are myths, so they have founding myths, identity myths, and so on.
I think the Mayflower, Plymouth Rock, these are part of the story, the enduring story of America. Although Malcolm X said, I didn't land on Plymouth Rock landed on me. So there's also alternative narratives going on at the same time.
But the Irish were barely a cut above blacks. I think the average lifespan for an Irish male in Boston in the late 19th century was about 14 years or something like that. There were signs, no dogs are Irish allowed, that kind of thing. Gradually over time they worked themselves into the political system, the social system, and became part of it. The Jewish immigration was pretty similar. The Jews, my father worked in a sweatshop, Jews were the criminals, Murder Incorporated was run by Jews. Finally they kind of worked themselves, they became school teachers and they worked themselves in bureaucracy, became the most privileged minority in the country. And it's happened with wave after wave of immigrants. People, if they really read the history, they'll recognize that racism in this country has not been about color solely. It's been about other things as well. So the Muslims are challenging that again, and it's good that they're doing it, and it's also good for the Muslims because resistance is what makes you stronger. If you want to build your muscles, you have to have resistance. It's a very frightened country. Unusually so by international standards, which is kind of ironic because they have a level of security that nobody's ever dreamed of in world history. But from the very beginning, there's a strong element of fear. This goes right back to the 18th century. A secondary theme underlying it is that the great enemy that's about to destroy us is somebody we're crushing. So in the early years, the great enemy was the Indians, the native population. We're exterminating them, but they're about to exterminate us. Now it's Muslims.
But obviously there are certain aspects to the post 9/11 world, in America in particular, that have challenged this country to the core. I think what 9/11 did is it brought it out into the open, which was quite shocking for a lot of Americans. But again, in some ways, it's good. I think Abu Ghraib was an opportunity for us to take a look at ourselves, because Abu Ghraib is not an anomaly. There have been many Abu Ghraibs in American history. Jung talks about embracing the shadow. For America to live in that kind of denial about the atrocities and those dark aspects of our culture and our history is to deny people the possibility of transcending them. You live in a melodramatic universe of comic book heroes and villains.
But the theme runs right through, and very typically it's some group that we're crushing, which is about to destroy us. And the paranoia is very real.
You know, Noam Chomsky has said that, you know, racism towards Arabs is kind of the last acceptable bastion of racism. You know, nobody seems to really care much about the Arabs. And I think that goes for Muslims in general, because Muslims have been demonized. You know, our history is a history of a 1,000-year war with Islam. I mean, we tend to forget that.
We asked our friend, Dean Goodman, what American identity meant.
Well, it means lots of things. When I was a kid, it was a pedigree. You know, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants would trace their roots back to the Mayflower or something like that, and encourage everyone else to assimilate and be like them. Who were those pilgrims that went to on the Mayflower? They were crazy religious zealots who left England because they wanted to practice their own brand of religion.
But we cannot really understand American identity without recognizing the importance of Plymouth.
Plymouth Rock. Not a very impressive looking rock. In fact, disappointingly ordinary and yet highly symbolic and appropriately covered now with almost a temple-like structure. Green columns, high ceiling, and a magnificent vista of the Atlantic Ocean. To the Mayflower. Tiny vessel. Think of the conditions of this vessel crossing the Atlantic. A small band arriving here on the eastern border of the United States. Then an unknown continent, faced with thickets of jungle in front, rumors of hostile quote-unquote savages and quote-unquote barbarians. No certainty about the future, but what they did have, the Bible, God up there. And that's what drove the early Americans, a vision of a new society.
My ancestors from my grandfather's family arrived here. So I actually have a tea set that was from the Mayflower. It's still in my family, it's an heirloom.
You are a distant cousin of my student and assistant Haley Bolt. Who's your ancestor?
I am the 11th generation descendant of Dr. Samuel Fuller, one of the pilgrims that arrived in the ship in 1620.
Maybe I should introduce myself. I'm Samuel Fuller.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. I told you I knew much about him. I am the deacon here as well as the surgeon.
And what motivated you to come here?
Land. Well, we all come here. Land, property. That's what we were just speaking about. Hey, what's wrong with this man? We're all Christians here, we're all Protestants. Those of us who have separated, and those from the King's Church.
And suppose Dr. Fuller and his small band were alive today, in America today, what would they recognize and what would they be shocked at?
They would probably be shocked at the majority of it. Totally alien, totally heathen, something that, you know, they could not respect.
Give me your tired, your poor huddled masses yearning to breathe free.
This is awe-inspiring. One of the great monuments of civilization, representing America itself, American identity.
The Statue of Liberty means fulfilling this dream of liberty and justice for all. It's both a dream that's still in progress and also that has been attained.
That's not a thing of the past. That still should be true of today.
I think this is one of the most powerful statues, monuments anywhere in the world.
This is a universal vision for America.
I had an idea of America growing up in Pakistan. It was a land of giants: Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, the Kennedy brothers and Martin Luther King Jr. This America inspired dreamers, poets and artists. And it was this America that suffered the most on 9/11.
Larry, we've got a tribe of anthropologists for you.
Anthropologists who have bad sense of direction
First
like
of all,
me.
the director.
I was delighted that my wife Zeenat had joined me in the
How are you
Northeast.
all?
Well,
Well, we
Sheikh,
found each other.
thank you so much for coming.
No, I haven't done anything.
I know you're rushing, so we're going to take you to Ground Zero. We'll talk. and then
We do
we'll
have this myth of the melting pot at the same time in the public domain. Most Americans want other Americans to be like them.
Standing here with brother Shams Ali from Indonesia, who's the Imam of what is reputed to be the largest mosque in New York. It takes something like 3,000 to 4,000 worshippers.
It's a melting pot between the West and the East, if I may say in that way.
And Islam is a religion of both East and West.
Yes, in fact the Quran says there is la sharqiyya la gharbiyya. Islam is not for the Western, not for the Eastern, but for whole humankind. Just tell him that you cannot pass by in front of the people when they pray.
Yes. Craig, don't pass by in front when someone is praying. Don't pass in front of us.
Okay.
Can you just stand back and shoot from there outside?
Yeah, you can shoot.
Yeah, once it's all over, you can just be quietly filming from there.
What are the American categories?
It's not so much that the Muslim in America is out of category, but that they never were clearly in category. And now, people are unsure what category to put them into. Visibleness. Race in America is literally skin deep. Again, when somebody passes for white, there's not really an issue. When somebody is visibly different, then Americans historically have not known what to make of that person. They are out of at least their category.
That He gave us a great one once a year to uplift ourselves.
Thank you, Sheikh. The film Obsession, which depicted Muslims in such a negative light, was circulating around America as we traveled.
But Imam, what do we do with something like this DVD, which this film Obsession, because it creates so much misunderstanding around Islam, and it's on such a big scale, 28 million copies going all over the United States.
Unfortunately, there isn't much we can do because right now the Muslims are not united as they should.
Have any of you heard about this DVD called Obsession? No. You haven't heard? You haven't heard? None of you? No. See, Imam, now what do you do with the Ummah when they haven't heard about the attack on the Ummah?
There's no unity here.
Well, let's see,
that's the problem.
What do you mean by that? Within the community?
Within the community.
We have a discussion here. Here is the Imam.
You are from Pakistan?
Yes.
Interfaith
also.
He's the Imam of
He's okay.
Okay. You're from Malaysia? You're from Malaysia?
Sometimes this is what we said. Excuse me in one thing. This is what we said. I'm from Bangladesh. I'm from North Africa. I'm from Algeria. I'm from whatever it is. He's a brother Muslim. That's how to unite us. It's one word. It's Islam.
9/11, the memory of that tragic day haunts New Yorkers and Americans at large. After 9/11, Muslims were seeing another side of American identity, the predator. Like here in Little Pakistan in Brooklyn, New York.
This is a humble place. This is not a big mosque. So I welcome your wife, our sister. Thank you very much for coming. We are thankful to you that you have made wonderful movie of Jinnah. You are working for benefit of mankind and benefit of Muslims. I have been living in this country for 19 years, and I feel the Little Pakistan is not Little Pakistan anymore. At least, as he said, I can believe at least 60%, 50 to 60% people, they got disturbed. 40% they left this neighborhood because they were defamed.
They are victimizing you? In what way?
Physically, mentally,
financially, by all corners.
How physically? If someone
Yeah.
assaulted you?
Yeah.
Where was this?
That was in where I am working at my job.
What happened?
What happened? No, nothing. I approached to the president of my company, nothing at all.
Someone beat you up?
That is the threat to kill me. So,
Just because you're a Muslim?
yes, that's it, nothing. My color is
What
white.
is gender?
Two reasons. For me, there is a great difficulty that I am looking like a European. The blacks think that he is a Jew or he is Christian. And Christians think, oh, this guy is a Muslim. His name is such and such. So I am in much trouble.
People in America, they think they have a right to push us around. Well, there's, like in the New York Constitution, it says that all people have a right to practice religion, right? So we can practice our religion in peace. But other people, they're gonna do something, they're gonna like attack us or attack any person, and then they're not gonna go to jail for it. When you tell the police, they're not gonna do anything because they think we're bad people, and then they're gonna blame us for doing something.
The dictionary is changed totally. Muslims means in the dictionary of America, terrorist. This is very dangerous.
I was watching TV. Cops came to our house. I'm like, what? Are they gonna arrest me or something? They come in. They're like, we're looking for something, and they search our whole house. I'm like, oh my God. Then they leave. I'm like, Mom, what did they do?
Congregant, he got killed in Afghanistan by the Taliban.
Young man Naqvi was in the American army?
Yes. He was in U.S. Army.
U.S. Army, and he was killed in Afghanistan on duty.
Yes, and he did not surrender. He preferred to be killed to not surrender before Taliban. It means this will make some difference. And American will feel that Muslims of United States are not disloyal. They are not selfish. Their children, their youth are ready to get killed against the terrorism. As we know, Islam is not the religion of terrorism.
They say that you guys are terrorists, you don't have a life. But then I say, well, you'll see when like in the future, you'll see how big we are.
Even my friend Barry Hoffman, the popular honorary Pakistan Consul General in Boston and of Jewish background, was powerless to help.
One of my major jobs now really is working with Pakistanis that are having problems with visas. Many students may drop out of school. For some reason, they're not conforming with their visa requirement. Now, in the old days, well, they'd find another school and nothing would happen. Today, they get arrested almost immediately. They're arrested, they don't know the laws, the rules, and they agree for deportation. All right, they violated their visa, but they're put in jail and forgotten about. The effect of this will be seen perhaps in 10, 20 years when you lose all this talent. And those that would stay, you know, that have gone on to do wonderful things here in the U.S. as engineers, et cetera, et cetera. But it's a terrible situation that most Americans don't know anything about. Children's Hospital here in Boston telephoned me and asked if I could help. They were going to do an operation for a 4-year-old child. I'm sorry, I get a little emotional about this. And the 4.5-year-old child was going to have open heart surgery, but they wouldn't grant a visa.
On our journey into America, we face all kinds of challenges.
What happened?
I don't know. This thing is freaking out. Okay.
Calm, Haley.
Where are we? Are we in
the middle of nowhere, LA?
Jonathan suddenly has to deal with changing flight schedules. Craig suddenly fell ill, eating nuts which he shouldn't have.
It's Craig Considine. Room 16.
in the emergency room?
My throat. There was like something stuck in my throat. I was like, it's just the peanuts, right? And then it was the short. Like when I started getting shortness of breath, I'm like, I'm out of here.
Frankie was ill one day. Haley had a problem the other day, and today I'm down with fever and flu.
They stole her camera. They stole her camera. Yeah, a big bag.
That's all we had, right?
So apparently our windows have been smashed.
Pretty.
Why, I don't know.
You think this is related? Someone had to see it, no?
But neither theft nor illness slowed us down.
What's her name? Debbie. I'll say hi. Ma. Yeah. Happy birthday.
Happy
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Debbie. Happy birthday to you.
You're on speaker. You're on speaker, Ma.
Oh my God, thank you, everybody. That's the best birthday gift I got.
As a Muslim scholar, I was interested in talking to the Mormons. Both our communities are subject to misunderstanding. We met with them at the holy site of Palmyra, New York.
It's really a historic site for the Mormons. This is where it all began. We are in the sacred grove itself, surrounded by these magnificent trees, where Joseph Smith saw his revelations. That's where it all began.
This is where it all began.
To look at the Mormons more closely, we went to Salt Lake City. Our host Elder Banks accompanied us to the Utah Islamic Center for Friday prayers.
I would say don't hesitate to be friends with your neighbors. I think there's a tendency to hold back and feel that they're suspicious of you. And there probably are those that are. But I would just say don't hesitate to be friends with your neighbors and let them know that you care about them and that they care about you.
Muslims have very family oriented, and they have their values are very conservative values. So that I think is very similar to the LDS community here. So probably the best place for a Muslim to raise his family is Utah.
They say that if they weren't Mormon, they'd be Muslim, because Islam and Mormonism they have almost the exact same belief systems kind of thing. Utah's the best place to raise kids.
Yeah.
And with me, it was just that I felt that I could be more myself here than I could anywhere else, even in a Muslim country. Because over here, differences really if you're different, it's not viewed as bad.
Right.
At least in Utah, that's what I feel. It's kind of accepted. Oh, you're different. I'm different too. Let's start a conversation.
Right.
So I feel really at home here than anywhere else.
From squeaky clean Salt Lake, we traveled to Las Vegas, better known as Sin City. Las Vegas is a figment of the imagination. Everything here seems to be an illusion. We left behind the bright lights of Vegas to visit the oldest mosque in the city.
The bishop on my right, the imam on my left, the spiritual pillars of Las Vegas.
Absolutely.
So they are ensuring that Sin City remains spiritually pure. And this is the oldest mosque
That's correct.
in Las Vegas.
That's correct. It goes back to the Nation of Islam days, so it goes back to the late 60s, and it has evolved over the last 35 plus years.
And you have some very famous names coming here?
Yes, we do. One of the largest donations that we received came from Mike Tyson. He donated $250,000. Muhammad Ali has been responsible for some fundraisers in the past.
And Bishop, you have a church just next to the mosque.
The Imam and I, we have forged a great relationship. He's my brother, my brother in the Lord, and my brother just in general. And what we are trying to do is to distill the myths that a lot of people have about Islam and even about Christianity. And I believe there's one Allah, there are many prophets. And we are trying to bridge the gap together. He has a heart for mankind. That is the only way you can do it.
Which doesn't see color or religion or faith or anything.
No.
Sees everyone is...
Absolutely. That's the only way you can do it.
And that's the true message.
Yes, sir.
Here we have a mosque performing giving medical aid to people who can't afford medicine.
Yes.
And also giving relief and food to the homeless.
Yes.
Who have no money and no resources.
That's
People
correct.
who come on Fridays.
That's correct.
So you are more than a mosque, you're now a social center. But you're struggling with resources all the time.
I mean, every week is a fundraiser of some sort, you know, to sustain
And
this
a challenge.
Yes, because people, they want to give to the building of masjids, and Muslims haven't really come to understand the value of this kind of service, you know.
So they concentrate more on giving for mosque building
Oh, you
rather
can
than...
get money for building masjids all the time, you know, the physical structure. And our Prophet, peace be upon him, that wasn't his example. Service to humanity was far more important than luxurious properties.
Here we have one of the dilemmas of a developed society. You have Las Vegas, the gambling, the casinos, the wealth, the excess. And just juxtaposed you have the poverty and homelessness. And the Imam, whose challenge it is to try to feed the homeless, whoever they are, whether they're Muslim or non-Muslim, that doesn't matter, it's people in need. He finds it difficult to even get food from hotels which would throw it away rather than give it to someone to give to the poor.
Yes.
What is the reason, and explain that?
You know, there are health regulations, at least that's what we're told, that prevent them from, say, for example, me going and asking for food that may have been sitting in the buffet for a couple of hours to feed the homeless. You know, so we run into the challenge with that kind of wastefulness, you know, that we find in the society, not only in the hotels, but in the fast food places, the McDonald's, the Burger Kings, where you can go, where we should be able to go, and we'll see them throw stuff in the garbage cans.
Now I see the word Hanifa here on this vehicle. And I hope he's not stopped over twice, one for being African American, one for being Muslim.
Well, you know, generally it kind of works so different. You know, like once you're stopped as an African American and they find out you're Muslim, they ease up a little bit.
They ease up?
Yeah.
I asked the Sheriff of Los Angeles what advice he has for Muslims in America.
He took, you see here's Ahmed Malik with Sheriff Lee Barker.
The first definition of the American society must respect the founding fathers of the country.
You went with him to Pakistan, he took you to Peshawar, and you went to the Khyber Pass also?
He was told, even the authorities in Islamabad, not to travel. Embassy told Sheriff not to go to Khyber Pass. He insisted because he has the passion, he wanted to see Khyber Pass. And he calls himself Pashtun.
Now when somebody claims to be a Muslim and they don't respect Judaism and they don't respect Christianity, they're not being a real Muslim.
In Los Angeles, we were welcomed in the biggest mosque on the West Coast.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
That's what I would tell American Muslims. If you want to not be put in a corner and accused of being less patriotic and not being really a true American, then you have to speak equally in passion with being an American, because this is where you live. And I think that the extremists are sending these messages in a way that they need to be constantly challenged by the Muslim society itself. Now, I've asked CARE, and I know CARE is under some degree of scrutiny from some critics. Why don't you publish in the Jewish Journal your complete revocation and opposition to terrorists that are Palestinian? Say it. It hasn't happened yet. But why do we have to do that? You know, it's offensive. We shouldn't have to prove anything like that to a particular group, because they're not being fair to us by making the accusation to begin with. But I'm the one that says, if your universal value is to cherish human life, and you're saying it is wrong for someone to kill themselves and then kill innocent people at the same time, this is where I think the misunderstanding is with the American society. Therefore, the leadership of all organizations in America, Impact, CARE, COPA, whatever they are, they cannot leave that issue unaddressed. Now, when the Muslim society has the same level of intense disgust, is when I think you'll see a parting of the feelings and opening up of the windows of light, and the Quran will not be subject to this. You see, the greatest victim of suicide bombers is not the Americans, not those that have been killed. The greatest victim is the Quran and the Prophet, peace be with him. That's where the situation is most unjust. Never use the Quran, never use the Prophet, peace be with him, for your own criminal deeds, including killing yourself. It is totally unacceptable in the eyes of God.
A brief break for Christmas, and the team was on the road again. This time, it was the deep south. Muslims see Americans as a monolith. But I discovered from my team, which is divided between north and south, that this is far from true.
Southerners think of Northerners rude, rich, not down to earth, too fast-paced, arrogant, jerks, you know?
People in the South are uncivilized, backward, not as intelligent, poverty, the education isn't there. The North won the Civil War, so that comes up.
The girls in the North are really ugly. Nobody's nice to each other. They're really cold, angry, depressed, and crude, too brusque, and the men dress really prim and proper.
We always say the dirty South. If anyone's seen Joe Dirt like this trailer park, no teeth, smokes Marlboro Reds, and he drinks Budweiser, he has a mullet, got jeans, and loves NASCAR. That would be like the typical stereotype of a Southerner.
Thinking about the millions and millions of people from Africa who were picked up over the last few centuries up to the 19th century, never to see their families, their village, their tribe destroyed in terms of their identity, their religion, their culture.
As an anthropologist, I took a detour to meet a special community.
I'm standing with Mrs. Bailey on Sapelo Island off the coast of Georgia.
Mrs. Bailey is a direct descendant of Bilali Muhammad, an African nobleman captured as a slave. She told us of the remnants of Islamic practices on Sapelo. Churches face east to Mecca. Men and women until recently covered their hair, took off their shoes, and were segregated in church. They are still buried facing the east. The team then travelled to an equally fascinating but little-known society, the Scots-Irish in West Virginia.
Fear controls every aspect of your life. If you don't have no fear, you don't have no control. That's what I talk about, the fanatics in Islam. You know, they don't have any fear. They don't care to die. You know, to me, life is the most important thing there is.
The warrior culture of their Scottish background influences them even today, creating a fierce sense of independence and pride.
The price of liberty is to fight for liberty. So don't let nobody take your liberty. They're free people. It goes back to their Scottish Irish descent, where they were servants. They were subclass people. There ain't no fair way to fight a war. Ain't one way to fight it, and that's full blast. Ain't no such thing as fair fight.
All right, Ben, how about what do they call them, the extended interrogation technique?
Responsibility of the American people lays in your hands, right?
Yeah.
Well, should you walk up and just shoot this fellow? Because he's your enemy now.
Yeah.
Or should you interrogate him and go ahead and kill him?
We had a trial yet?
Well,
isn't that how we did it?
Did anybody in the World Trade Center get a trial?
No.
Well, okay, I'll rest my case.
Okay. Well.
See where it hit?
I saw it, yeah.
Frankie upheld the honor of the team with the marksmen of West Virginia. Our trip to New Orleans coincided with the world-famous Mardi Gras.
Professor in American University, Washington, D.C., traveling with this group.
Okay. In that case, you can have anything you want.
Thank you, my friend. What's your name?
Wait. Kid Mary. No, Kid Merv.
Kid Merv.
My great uncle was Kid Rene, who played with Louis Armstrong in the Welsh song.
Explain to me that jazz music and Sufi music, devotional music, have a relationship.
Well, it's strictly.
Have you heard of this kid?
No, but I can identify with you talking about, because when I perform with this music, it's divine. It's straight to the Father.
You do feel that there's a spiritual base to jazz music?
Yes.
That there's a spiritual
Yes, most definitely, from my heart. Because I would not be here. If it wasn't for jazz, I've been to hell and back. But we're not going to go into that.
Well, kid, we are delighted to be part of your birthday celebration.
It's a
Happy
pleasure.
birthday.
It's a pleasure. God bless. God bless.
Explain it.
Well, it's Bourbon Street, Mardi Gras, and anything you want is available. You got sex, women, alcohol, everywhere you go. Forced down your throat. Anything you want. Just pure debauchery. And in the wrong hands, it can be a very bad thing.
Jonathan, when you say that, take that grin off your face. For Muslims, this does pose a problem because alcohol, free, illegal sex like this, gambling, these are all forbidden. And Muslims we've talked to in New Orleans love being here, they love living in the South, but they don't come to this particular part of New Orleans. While ironically, this is the place, Bourbon Street, that has made New Orleans so famous.
The natives have a ritual of exposing themselves in exchange for beads.
What does it mean to be American?
Hey, it means get up and just get up and have great sex and eat hot wings. That's what it means to be an American. Hell yeah, we just don't like the Muslims. That's all. We don't like the Muslims. They don't believe in our Jesus. They believe in their own freaking Jesus.
We really have no limits. If you think of a lot of other countries, they can't do like this, you know?
Muslims?
I don't know.
They flew planes into the World Trade Center. Are you Muslim?
No.
Good, I had to cook you in your nuts.
What do you think of Muslims?
I don't know. I don't know any Muslims. No, I don't hate Muslims.
I don't think that much of them because I don't know about them. I don't know nothing about them.
They got a nickname they call sand niggers.
It mean to be American, you can come out here, drink in Mardi Gras, party at Mardi Gras, freedom, Obama, you understand what I'm saying? We out here chilling, you know, we got the police back there doing their thing, we got the strippers over here doing their thing. That's what it is, proud to be an American.
What's the biggest threat to America?
The biggest threat right now is the police coming to mess with me for no apparent reason. That's the biggest threat to me right now. I ain't worried about it at all.
Yeah, what's the biggest threat to America?
The police.
The feds. Yeah. Feds, you remember locked up for 3 months, you heard me? More police system, leans, New Orleans.
You know what I'm saying? Look, this
What does it mean to be American to you?
Being American, I can come out here and I can shine the light of truth in the midst of darkness. The gospel of Jesus Christ that this nation was founded on. Those that are what we call the radicals, they're not a bunch of lunatics. They're following their book. I follow our book. I don't blame them for following their book. Their book tells them to kill. That's why they're doing it.
Muslim. I mean, how can you be president of America?
Who's a Muslim?
Barack Hussein Obama.
Is Obama the biggest threat to America?
No, I don't think so.
Who is?
His friends over in Israel.
Can we ask you what it means to be American?
What it means to be American?
What do you think?
To have as much sex as possible.
We film Girls Gone Crazy. We go all over the place, different places. The girls from Mardi Gras will turn around, they'll flash and stuff like that. We catch them acting natural, and then we produce and manufacture DVDs, sell them all over the world.
Nicole, a former self-described party girl and fashion photographer, converted to Islam.
Of course, I was part of that, you know. When I would shoot in different nightclubs, and that's how it was. I mean, if a camera walked in the room, girls were so willing to do anything. I saw girls take off their tops, expose their breasts, and you know, making out with each other. The cameras, they didn't pay anybody for anything, but they want to show that stuff because that's what people want to see. You know, everybody wants to take what you've got and disperse it and make a dime off of it and not give any to you. This is the morale of our nation, you know, whether we want to face that or not. It's a vicious circle of everybody is alone and they keep on living their life for these temporary satisfactions and, you know, temporary pleasure.
Covering herself gave Nicole a new self-confidence.
I loved it, and it felt like I was a new woman. It felt like, okay, now I'm classy. Now when I walk in, you know, you can tell it's like a nun walks in the room. You know, that's an American way to put it. If a nun walks in the room, everyone's like, wow, you know, she has a glow about her. You open the door for her. You show her respect because she lives her entire life for God. And the way she dresses and everything she does is for God. And she's not showing anything of her body. And that's ultimately respected here in America.
On the other side of the wide Mississippi lay the wounded 9th Ward, devastated by Hurricane Katrina.
Now, our friend from New Orleans, Abdurrahman, who is originally from Syria, lives here in New Orleans as a contractor. He's going to describe this particular mosque, which was destroyed by the flood.
But Abdurrahman Zaitoon and his wife Kathy had more to worry about than the hurricane.
We own 2 houses, 2 fourplexes side by side. And on this day he was at this house and these military men, they came and they arrested him.
Military boat passes by and he asked if we needed help or we needed water. We say we're okay, we have everything under control. There's a boat and he walked in with the machine guns. I have like 6 of them. Almost. He said, give me your ID. And he gave him the ID. Really, I mean, first thing he saw my name was, you know, he said, get to the boat.
There was a guy, he actually called me after my husband was arrested, but I didn't know my husband was arrested. And he told me that, you know, they caught him while he was on this boat, which was stolen, a big motorboat, you know, and it was stolen, and he's riding his thing around, and they caught him and they sent him to another state where the government paid for his rent for 1.5 years and gave him food stamps and Medicaid or whatever else. Whereas my husband, because he was an Arab man, he went to Hunt Correctional Center and stayed there for 20.5 days.
That's the bus station. It's been designed like exactly like Guantanamo Bay. We brought us in the place, jail, inside the jail, inside the jail. I mean, like you in 3 different places.
When they got to Hunt Correctional Center, they had 1 cement slab that's built on the ground, and they have just a rolled up, you know, this little mattress, the cot for mattress. They had that on top of it, and they had 2 or 3 men in the cell, and then they put 6 men in the cell with 1 cot and a toilet in the middle of the floor. Which at Camp Greyhound, they had porta potties, but they took all the doors off.
They got to take all our clothes off, and not that he make me to bend down and to look behind me if they have anything behind headed. It's the most, I think, no more humiliating than that.
I mean, he was so short. He looked so short and thin, and his beard was so overgrown because normally he keeps it very, very, very short trimmed. It's like, it looks like razor stubble. But he just, and his beard was so white. It's like that prison aged him. He looked like an old, short man.
Every Muslim, doesn't matter what you go, where you are, you don't have no right. I see many stories worse than mine.
Muslim women too face challenges.
Well, I'm from Puerto Rico. My father was Puerto Rican and my mother was from Ecuador. I've lived in the United States, well, the mainland, as we say, for many, many years. and I converted in 1983.
I saw a lot of people looking up, very shocked.
Yeah.
So how, do you find that? Do people look up
Yeah,
with
in fact,
hostility?
as you know, I was in the Emirates for a month, where we were not being stared at because obviously we're the blend. And when I came out with him this morning, just to come here, we were going through the streets, and everybody was staring. I said, wow, I'm back in America. I was working for the district attorney's office, and people were spitting at me.
Spitting at you?
Yeah, spitting. I was on the Christina show because people were spitting at me. It became very vicious, and I decided to go one step further rather than hide. And some people were even told to take off their veils for safety. I refused. I said, I'm not going to take off my veil because that's sort of like a sign of defeat.
What if Haley dressed up like Khadija? What if she did it in a place called
Arab, translated Arab in the Muslim world. Arab has a reputation for being all white and not particularly friendly to non-whites. And that is what Jonathan, my chief of staff, tells me, who's from this area.
Everybody I've come across from here, good people, but you know, then again, I'm white.
So we are here with the team. Haley's dressed as a young Arab girl to see the reactions of the local people, and we will then get an idea of how the people of Arab respond to Muslims in their midst. Haley, any comments?
It should be interesting. I hope no one gets violent.
We'll protect
That's all. Yeah, but the team is here to protect me, so.
You aren't Arabs or anything? You're not descended from some Lebanese sheikh or anything?
No.
I wouldn't know what it's called. I mean, it would.
What religion does this represent?
Something Middle Eastern, I would think, but I don't know exactly. I mean, I wouldn't want to say something just to stereotype because I'm not that educated about Middle Eastern.
So we thought a
religion.
town called Arab might in fact be a good place to bring a girl dressed as an Arab.
Yeah, well, it's the town's supposed to be called Arad.
Arad?
Yeah, but they misworded it, misspelled it whenever it first began, and so.
After Arad Thompson, a man named Arad
Oh,
Thompson.
Arad Thompson. So we in fact just chasing the wrong clues then. Under false pretense then. We have walked into this little cafe with Haley dressed as an Arab or an Arab. And no one really bothered. And there was a group of shaved
Not even those guys over there.
survivalist looking characters who just gave a glance and did nothing else.
Good luck. Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you, you too.
Y'all take care.
Meet you.
Absolutely.
See you, pal.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye. Well,
really
they've
nice.
certainly lived up to southern hospitality and established the fact that the local people are extremely friendly. And Jonathan, you'll have to take the much maligned Arab off your list of suspicious and frightening cities not to visit.
They have good barbecue.
I told them they were nice people.
Next stop, Texas. The huge city of Houston has a wide variety of Muslim communities. It is said to have over 100 mosques. There we visited the Dawoodi Bohras, a Shia sect from India and Pakistan. This is a remarkable community. It has 100% literacy among males and females.
Children, I am very pleased to be here with you. I'm delighted to be in your classroom. I'm delighted to see the word ilm everywhere, because ilm means knowledge. You're here to acquire knowledge. Through knowledge, you'll be good human beings, you'll be good Americans, and you will be able to express your religion, your deen, which is Islam. I'm traveling throughout the United States with my team. This is my grandson Ibrahim. He's just come from Cambridge with his mother Amine and daughter Mina. We're traveling throughout the United States. We have been to 100 mosques. 100 mosques. And after today it becomes 100 and? Very good. You're good at mathematics, I see.
I hope you continue to study and all become good doctors or professionals and experts in your own fields.
I studied in England teacher.
I'm a teacher.
You are? My husband's a physician. I do the administration at his office. I'm a pharmacist. I'm a real estate agent. Okay, I have my own clinic. I'm a pediatrician.
I'm a financial analyst with ExxonMobil Corporation.
Catering. Yeah, she does her own catering business.
All these girls, they wear the same dress as they do here in the school, public school. And they are proud to be Muslim and they are proud to be American. We love America because we have freedom of speech, freedom of
I love America and I love the fact that they allow me to wear this dress at school. It just helps me show how much I'm proud of my religion.
The famous novelist Bapsi Sidhwa hosted a dinner for us.
I think that there are the 2 or 3 steps that can improve Muslim relations with the outside world.
I find I'm very often invited conferences, big humongous things, lifting the veil, Islam, they always involve me to talk about Islam. And usually there are other Muslim women there with me, or men. And they are, I find, a little apologetic. They would say, well, I'm not a practicing Muslim, or something like that, because they feel so intimidated and threatened. I, being a Zoroastrian and not a Muslim, I feel I can speak and give a voice here, a much stronger voice. And what I really emphasize very often is the similarity between Islam and Christianity and Judaism.
People are here that hosted the guy.
Are you proud with the new president, Barack Obama? The other people in Houston think that he can bring change.
We're all hoping so. Nobody knows, but we're all hoping so. We sure need it.
England is a much more hierarchical society and it's a much more established society. And so when Muslims coming in, they feel part of a hierarchy, but not always at the top. Whereas America, everybody is from somewhere else. So the Muslims that we talk to from the Bohra community and the different communities, the Zoroastrians and from the variety of communities, Ismailis and Sunnis and Shias and all of them felt part of America.
They don't mind Muslims in Texas.
They like Muslims overall?
Not really but don't mind.
Although they're very young, what to me is very interesting that here a group of American students, but they're seeing Islam through its own eyes.
And this is rice and fish. That's the main dish in Senegal. Help yourself. Yeah. It's good.
So you need give me give me all and not get good beer for that you know so then
very good. You know. As Imam told you, the doors are open, not only for Muslims or everybody who want to seek knowledge about the religion or who's bringing something positive. Welcome.
What did you guys say of the food?
Awesome, delicious. Except for these. So, I'm not sure about these.
Not about these. Everything else is awesome.
Back in Washington, D.C., Colonel Hemi Martinez, commander of the Old Guard, invited me to talk to his battalion at nearby Arlington Cemetery. We went to Plot 60, where soldiers killed after 9/11 are buried.
He's a great soldier. This is, the gravesite of Captain Khan.
Now, Greg, you see the cross and you see the Star of David. Star and crescent to symbolize Islam. And from the name you can see that this is an Arab soldier who died for his country, America. And is buried here, honored here in Arlington Cemetery, like the other name, Humayun Khan, probably from South Asia. So this certainly illustrates that Muslims have been not only soldiers but distinguished soldiers. Both of these have been given the honors of the Purple Heart, the Bronze Star, distinctions given by the military for their service to their country.
We then had to talk to the 2 Muslim members of Congress.
We're having breakfast with one of the wisest and most courageous leaders in America, Congressman Keith Ellison. He's a great American and a great Muslim.
An American identity is an essential commitment to American principles. American identity is rooted in a system of ideas. I mean, I'm proud to be an American. It's a great thing. Has there ever been a country in the history of the world that has started out with taking the land from the Indians, dragging Africans to do the work, denying the right of half the population, women, to participate in civic life, and then within a few hundred years solving these problems internally? I mean, Canada didn't come down here and make us get along better. We worked it out, and it wasn't easy. People lost their lives, people lost their careers, their prices paid. But we live in a time now where, a black man's the president of the United States.
Well, before I came to Congress, I sat on the Indianapolis City County Council. I was also a police officer for nearly a decade, and I was assigned to Indiana's Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security. We work with the FBI, we work with Secret Service and other organizations, and I was a supervisor over a counterterrorism unit. And so as a Muslim, it was especially important because, one, it helped humanize Muslims, and it sent the message that America will not win the war against terrorism without the help and cooperation of Muslims who want to see the best of America. I'm a very proud American. Most importantly, I'm a proud Hoosier. And more important than that, I'm a proud Muslim.
Congressman Ellison was sworn in on a copy of the Holy Quran owned by Thomas Jefferson. The Founding Fathers passionately believed in a pluralist America. A statue at Jefferson's University of Virginia carries a tablet which reads, Religious Freedom, 1786. God, Jehovah, Brahma, Atma, Ra, Allah. Just think of it. Jefferson owns the Quran and welcomes the believers of Allah. It is this extraordinary pluralist vision that is in jeopardy. I believe America needs to rediscover the moral clarity, courage, and inclusiveness of its founding fathers, because America speaks to the world. Only this America can take the lead in challenging the global crises that the world faces: poverty, climate change, wars, and violence. Tragically, it is bogged down in its relationship with Muslims. We went to the sages for wisdom and guidance.
What I would say is what I've often said in our dialogues, that when they asked the great rabbi, what's the difference between light and darkness, all the answers were brought. And the rabbis turn to their students and say, the difference between night and day, darkness and light, is when you can see another human being and see that they're in the image of God. And so what I think this journey into America is that it's a journey into looking and make sure that we can see all of our American brothers and sisters and see that they are indeed created in the image of God, that they have worth, that they have value.
It's truly a work of God, and I think that is evident in your desire to bring together the people of the world in greater love and respect for one another. So we ask the God of all, the God of our father Abraham, to send his abundant blessings upon this work that you've undertaken it with great love and great perseverance and great patience, and that God will give you the power of his grace to see it through so that it will be made available to the world to help this whole world of ours to come to know one another much better, to come to love truly each other more deeply, and to have that profound respect for all peoples.
It's the message of Christianity, message of Judaism, is to bring peace and harmony among people, among each other, and between them and God. May Allah bless you, may Allah reward you, and make your journey and mission easy and blessed one.
Our society here is at a new juncture. We're at a meeting point, a confluence, where all religions are thriving, where people from all walks of life, from all cultures, are coming together, not just blending, but a common voice, finding making a beautiful tapestry, keeping their identities, but working towards what we are calling a post-racial society. So the work that you're doing is extremely important.
I am so grateful for the efforts of your efforts in making an attempt to bridge that gap, to break down those walls, to introduce us to each other in a way that is non-threatening and encourages us to really to seek out the best in our respective cultures and marry them together in one larger world culture. And I applaud you and hope that you have great success.
Congratulations to you for the conception of the project itself. This is likely to be one of the most definitive works to date on the Muslim experience in the United States.
Like you have your team. It's not an all-Muslim team. It's not. But it's an all-righteous team.
I think you're the first that I know that have really tried to capture the rich texture of America. I just think it was a brilliant idea, and I think it's going to be broadly watched, and it's going to be very influential.
I would just like to commend the good doctor for his wonderful work in helping to change the mindset of not only Americans but citizens of the world. This is a very important effort because many of our ills in society come about as a result of ignorance. And what the good doctor is doing is helping to break down those walls and those barriers of ignorance and bringing us into a new understanding and a new enlightenment.
And the tomb that you have seen, or the Ayman Taha, when you visit the National Cemetery, is a person that I placed in Janaza in my mosque. And I know Ayman Taha very well. He went to the University of California, and he wanted to protect the civilians. And that's why he took the mission from the civilian population to an outside area, and that's what things exploded. I think this film have put things in perspective, that Muslim community is very diverse. We have different ethnic backgrounds, different levels of cultural flavors, practice Islam. Very nice when you saw the Senegalese. There was Senegalese things that in the film, and that showed the diversity of Muslims in America. The other things I would like to say that they put the human face into Islam, because many people don't realize that how many Muslims and the variety of Muslims in America. Really thank you for this kind of work.
I was very impressed with the film and the concept of the film to begin with, and having had an opportunity over the time to speak with some of the students that traveled, it's a marvelous journey that they took, and the revelations that come both to the students and for us who witness this through the film are quite remarkable. And there are subtle things that have been done in the film that I think are beautiful. When Frankie stands and asks the cultural anthropologist who's from, I think his name's Rosenberg, from Princeton, and says, what's the category that the Muslim fits into? Over his shoulder is Brooks Brothers. Yeah. And there are little things in terms of this when we look that dress, attitude, even the subtleties with the students discovering themselves, their own prejudice, and when they look at in their own stereotypes of Southern versus Northern. The film is well done. It'll be a marvelous piece to spark individuals in discussion, and in dialogue. And once again, it's a great opportunity. What I do believe is very important that for those who are non-Muslims to see is that the diversity and the intra-struggle that goes on, not only with American identity, but the identity of what is Islam today. And so this dichotomy that you see in the film of the question being asked is, what is American identity? It is also asking, what is that identity for a Muslim in the world, in the countries that they live in around the globe. Fascinating scene when they're with the in New York in the large mosque with over 4,000, the capacity for 4,000. And the man interrupts the little argument that's going on and says, there's simply one Islam. And I think that that's the most poignant and beautiful piece of footage that was taken. So I commend all of you on this work.
You know, I've become very reluctant to participate in any documentary about Islam or Muslims anymore after having a number of, having my hopes dashed, thinking that the people who were producing them were, quite intelligent, and then seeing it finally screened on public television and seeing again the camels, the rolling sand dunes, the pictures of the woman veiled in black, and it just seems so difficult for people not to resort back to those old sort of iconic images of stereotypes of Islam and Muslims. So this is very refreshing because it's not that, but also it's not a documentary that tries to present an image of Islam that is, somehow the good Muslim or everything that you want to see. We have the, what we call the older uncles with their beards and their topies and their, their accents. Everyone who's in this documentary doesn't speak with a British or American accent, and that's really important too, because that is also who we are. So just to have that honesty about the community, and also to take away the fear of encountering those people in those places. The reality is that there are many Americans who are well-meaning, but they are really frightened of what might be going on behind the doors of the mosque. What happens in there? What do they do in there? It still remains a kind of taboo place. And to crack open those doors, to get in, to hear what's on the people's minds, and the people who, as I say, still you may not be used to encountering or talking to people who look like them very often. It takes away the strangeness of it. So I think that's going to be a really important contribution of this film.
I have to commend Professor Akbar Ahmed for taking on such a challenge, him and his team. It was obvious by that documentary they covered a lot of ground and saw a lot of America, including the scary parts, the Borat-like moments in New Orleans. Intriguing to hear Americans saying that what it means to be American is to have sex all the time. I'm still British, which probably explains my sad social life. But in actual fact, it is very challenging because breaking down stereotypes is very, very difficult. I work with Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera English, and normally when you say you work for Al Jazeera, you clear a room in record time. So it's late, you're all very tired or something. But it did make me. I used to always joke how the word Al had become the most terrifying word to the American population, and Al in Arabic just means the. But when you add Al-Aqsa, Al-Qaeda, Al Jazeera, it becomes very scary. Of course, you have Al Gore. And started it all with Al Capone, but it's been a challenge also from a media perspective to try to break down the stereotypes. So I think it's very good for people to see the breadth and diversity of Muslims in America. I'm really glad and proud of the Professor and his team, which I was very honoured to have on my show, performed such a great job with covering America like this.
Thank you for the opening statements. Now, any comments, questions from the audience? We've got some very distinguished people. Jan, you've got your hand up.
Yes.
Would you like to come up and speak through the mic?
Wow. My name is Jan Duplange with the Interfaith Speakers Bureau. I agree that it was a very courageous and wonderful film on so many different levels. I was interested if you'd tell us about how long the film took. How many hours of film did you shoot? About the editing and what you had to choose and how you chose and selected what you came up with to put it together, because this is very hard to put together. Did you have a theme going in? Things like that.
Well, Jan, we had, as you know, a whole team. Craig, of course, was the director, but each member of the team, they were introduced. Jonathan is not here. He's unfortunately away. He's got some family business. But each member of the team had a camera. So they were also filming as much as they could. So when we got back, we literally had... Craig, how many hours do you think you had of film? 150 hours of film. And they had films of everything. And of course the challenge was to reduce that to 90 minutes. Because we really got some incredible footage. So that really was a challenge. Babar then came into the picture and got his excellent editor to work with us and the music director. And we spent a lot of time working with these people and making a film. Of course, the theme is there. There's travel. It's, as our panel has pointed out, it's a very sophisticated film. For example, the Bourbon Street scene. Now, you pick that up because it's so raw. A lot of Americans will be shaken and shocked. Most Muslims will be, because Muslims avoid that. The Imam of New Orleans was driving me around, won't drive through that street. While he was driving me around, he said, I just don't come here. The scene starts, if you see it again, with my discussion with a jazz musician trying to locate the relationship between Sufism and jazz. So the scene begins on a very high spiritual note, and it's all the way down from then on. Because we have all that women, sex, drunkenness and revelries and so on. And then it ends with that very cynical man with the camera saying that my program is even more daring than Girls Gone Wild. My program is called Girls Gone Crazy. And I capture these women in this drunken condition, film them, and sell this product internationally. So we start that sequence with a quest for spiritualism and mysticism. And we end it with globalization, the demand for women to be shown naked on the camera. So each scene, each sequence is very, very subtle, and you really will have to see it the second time. And Jan took a lot of effort and time to make this and to think about it. And luckily the team has been, as I said, working about a year on this non-stop, very dedicated, very committed, and this is their country. So for me, I'm enjoying looking at America, discovering America as an anthropologist. But these are young Americans. These are discovering their own country. They are the future leaders of this country. They have to guide it, lead it. And for them to understand America in this way is absolutely unique, because they have access to America which even their parents wouldn't dream of having. And that is why the richness, the texture of this film is something that, and at the editing process it was really painful, because we had to really make choices, what to leave in, what not to leave in. And in the end you saw some glimpses. And perhaps in a 4-part series we can even expand some of this.
Aziz Fan from Saudi TV. Since you've been throughout the country, what is the most thing that surprised you about Muslim community and where it was?
I think I'd like each member of my team to answer that, what surprised them the most. I think you saw in the film that there were some very pleasant surprises for me. So can I ask, where's Frankie? Is here? Frankie, can you come up? Haley, Frankie and Craig, can you, each one of you answer and share with us what surprised you the most? And maybe we can even ask the panel then what they thought was the most surprising thing in the film.
I think the most surprising thing for me was just in terms of the Muslim community, the diversity of the Muslim community. And there was a lot that didn't make the film. I mean, we interviewed Cambodian Muslims, we interviewed many Bosnian Muslims, we interviewed the entire Muslim world is in the United States. And this is what we were trying to do, was trying to see how people were living together and the strength of these ideals that we have, pluralism and so on, that you saw at the end of the film. So I think just the diversity. And then, I mean, I was just surprised to see the United States through different eyes, a different lens. And this is what we said we were doing. We were looking at America through the lens of the Muslim experience. So you get to see very often, as we saw some of the sequences, a different looking country than the one that we know.
What surprised me the most, I think, was that so many Muslims said that America is the best place to live and to practice Islam. I didn't expect that. I expected a lot of people to say, oh, we're victims, it's horrible after 9/11, da-da-da, but it wasn't like that. Of course, there are many people who have had a hard time after 9/11, and we saw that in the film, but so many people are so happy to live here. They say America is the best place to practice Islam, as we said. And there are a lot of really vibrant, integrated, happy communities. Can we turn the light on? Yeah, just go for it.
All right, I will.
Sorry, Craig.
Okay, I think the most surprising thing for me was how many different people of different backgrounds are converting to Islam. A lot of white people are converting to Islam for a sense of moral clarity. You know, they're like Nicole, for example. She was sick of running around, going to clubs, getting drunk, being obscene. So she goes to Islam because it's a straight path and it gives you structure to your life. And we saw a lot of that. And after that, going throughout the country, you know, anyone can be a Muslim. Like Frankie said, we met Cambodians, there are Somalians, you know, there are white people, African Americans. So it actually shows just how diverse Islam is in itself.
Thank you, team. Now, could we request the panel to just comment on this? Anything that surprised you in the film itself?
It's the tablet said Jehovah, God, and Allah. That was I have not seen that. And I think this was really a good point, in that the Islam was included in early America.
You know, Imam Magid, I read in the papers, in the Arab papers, that Dalia Mugaid had advised President Obama about his speech in Cairo. And maybe if you had advised him, you'd have included the tablets.
Right. Yeah, I guess being a journalist and having travelled a lot, there was nothing really that surprised me as such, though I was glad so much was included. I think the theme that I hope people pick up on is, and I guess the team would be able to best explain this, but certainly what I saw in the documentary was the theme that came through with all the Muslims that the team met was a huge sense of tolerance and love for America. And I think the thing that surprises a lot of people in America, the non-Muslim community, the non-Asian or African or Arab community, is that, you know, people come from outside and they actually do love the country. They do very much like being a part of America. And it's very easy to alienate them, thinking just because there's a different color of skin or a different kind of dress code, that the people must be totally alien to this country. And I think the fact that they're very American came through. And I hope that's the message that gets across as well.
No, I don't have anything to add, but I'm going to say that your next documentary could actually be picking up those kind of artifacts of Islam in early America. When I was I remember the first time I went to the State Department for their annual iftar. I was just sort of wandering around the room before dinner started, and I noticed this beautiful portrait of a striking gentleman and dressed in his turban and his uniform. And there's a plaque there saying that this is from the Bey of Tunis as a gift in friendship to the American people following the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. And I went up to one of the Deputy Secretaries of State, I said, "Portrait, did you put that in there for the thought?" He said, "No, this is a portrait in this room, in the Benjamin Franklin room. It's been here for forever." And then we started to talk and ticked off in the top of our mind, what other things do we know about? We know about that the Prophet Muhammad is on the frieze of the Supreme Court as someone who established the law. We know that on the floor of the Congress you have Suleiman Qanuni, Suleiman the lawgiver. He's there with the other lawgivers, with Justinian and others. So it would be interesting to pick up all of these things and just make them kind of accessible, because the gap that we think is there simply is really illusory.
The one thing that it didn't surprise me, but was, I think, incredibly refreshing, is, again, the honesty of the film, in the sense of looking at both the reflection of what those who were asking the questions projected the prejudice might be, even in the South when they didn't find it, spoken as a good Southerner, and also the understanding of the diversity, and this struggle between those two identities again, I think is really brilliantly done. And I think if, when we look at American history and we take, de Tocqueville's travels through America and looking and talking about the strong nature of the individual, this is where, how does one keep one's personal individual identity and yet create a society which has the type of diversity that America does. And I think that this is the next step, and I think that this is a wonderful opportunity to talk about what it is for somebody comes in, when the majority of those who come to America and participate in America as Muslims are in the second half of this century, and the challenges that come, because it's a whole different immigrant experience.
I know we have some very special guests. The parents of our team are here, and I request one member of the families to come up and make a comment on behalf of the family, starting with Terry or Susan. Would one of you like to come up and make a comment about what you thought about the film?
Professor Ahmed has quite a way of putting people on the spot. I've noticed that with my daughter quite a bit, and myself. I think it was a very ambitious project. I think it was very well conceived, very dutifully and laboriously executed. They worked very, very hard for a long time, and I think that this is a very good start for their project before the book comes out. I think that the message is very important, and I hope that it's well received and widely distributed so that everyone can start to understand each other a little bit better. It's going to take a long time for us to all understand each other, and this is a good way to break the ice.
You do know how to put people on the spot. The thing that strikes me the most in viewing the film today is it brings us back to our basics. What strikes me is the fact that it takes us all back to the beginning, the Constitution, all the main tenets of our country. And this is re-energizing. It makes me feel good. Even though I was very close to it, I was very surprised because I've never seen the picture before. This is a fabulous film, and I believe it has international ramifications. Well done. Very well done.
It is late, but thank you for your effort. I think it was a wonderful film, and I hope it's well received everywhere. I always wanted to take Frankie on a trip throughout America. I was never able to do that. Now you have, Ahmed, so thank you for taking him under your wing. I found out California. That's an interesting thing. What was the other one?
Tallahassee.
I know it's late and you've been very patient. I do want to apologize for the late start. It wasn't necessarily Islamic timing and Islamic punctuality. It was simply that there were popular speakers speaking upstairs and they had a huge audience and most of the audience was locked up, and unfortunately the enthusiasm of the audience just kept the speakers going. So it's a late hour now, and I will request the panel to make their final comments and we will then wish you a good night.
I think that maybe the film should generate discussions, we call them like a study circle, like dialogue. Have people to watch the film, bring Muslims and people of other faith, and watch the film together and have discussion around it. I think that will be more also beneficial in the grassroots level. I think this is a very good way we can build understanding.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that we can find ways to disseminate this. I was speaking to Professor Ahmed about this earlier, and I think that in many of our dialogue groups we're looking for something to take us a little bit deeper, and I think that this is something that could be a very good tool for dialogue. So many issues can be pulled out of this and discussed in greater detail. So I'm as an educator, I'm looking forward to this, using this as an educational tool.
It's a great job, and I think it will be an excellent tool. And I think that it begins to show, as we've all stated over and over, the incredible diversity that has to be understood. That even though religiously there is one Islam, there are certainly many, many faces culturally, and that's something that we have to do and understand. And hopefully this will help us from, in general, and especially speaking from the non-Muslim community, begin to stop this blanket stereotyping that happens in all religious and ethnic groups, which is so counterproductive, but yet happens so many times. And I also think that the one element that I think that, in contrast, there is another side that I'm sure is that there's a tremendous amount of America that simply embraces Islam and looks for that and sees this as yet another petal on the beautiful flower that unfolds that makes America.